Everyone, I'm here again to continue my report about the ancient Roman Empire. Ancient Roman Empire has has worse than any matter that exists during the ancient Roman empires. Harsh method is done to continue to use. Prison there is built underground with tight any little in space. In the passage cells, the prisons will being held in simple cells. Worse than chain to the walls strongly, extremely strong. So some of our prisoners put in dungeons that being chained to walls. So they're kind of underground that has underground cell that has tight and claustrophobic passageway and cell. If we think that that kind of prison is that we are we have today, so I think there is no human rights exist in that way. So prisoners has prisoners are used the use or should I say slavery that exists in their punishment. So they force prisoners to work and use the Roman government as workforce. So one of the most famous use of for slavery in Roman Empire was gladiators. So in addition, fighting in arena, sometimes after lifetime of training, especially gladiator trainings, houses, etc., some of prisoners come up into death. And that way, our prisoners will 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 use violence for them to survive, uh, because they're forced to do fight and for the entertainment purposes to their government. So next slide is so next so the most famous gladiator battleground was called Colosseum Arena in Rome, and more than 224 slaves worked daily to power source, and 24 elevators that transported gladiator to their wild animal opponents. So their opponent is wild animals like lion or etc. For them to survive, they fight for their life and remain alive so that they can proceed back to their to their to their rooms or to their for them to alive to back to their cells. So the condition of the European prisons remained harsh until the English royalty started being more involved with justice system. So because of Henry the second, the justice system their justice systems are are in developed or or reform. So Henry the second commission that construct the first prison in 1166, together with the first draft of English legal system, used concept of jury. So in 1166, the first prison well constructed, and that prison and that way our prisoners will will move that to, and that way the dungeons or the dungeons were, and that way the some of our the prisoners will they remove the chain on their feet, so they have little freedom, and that way that start in 1166. So next slide. So one of the most historic prison legislation was introduced in 1215. But before that, let us describe what really a prisoner is. Prisoner who is derived to personal liberty against his or her freedom because of his or her action that against the law, or he committed a crime that needs to be paid of the following conviction of a crime while on trial or serving. We cannot convict a person or a prisoner when he or she not yet serving inside the prison. So in 1215, when King John signed Magna Carta and started that no man could be imprisoned without trial, so that way the imprisonment was slightly developed by that there is a process before they are being convicted. So the rise of industry between 16th and 18th century, English prison became overcrowded. But in 16th and 18th century, some of the reason the rise of crime and the growth of our population, our prison were overcrowded, and new penal measures are started being implemented. So to prevent that, new rules are or new policies were exist or implemented to reduce crime and to reduce the overpopulated prisonment. And during the end of 18th century, over 50,000 prisoners were transported from England to penal colonies to the North America and Australia. So due to overpopulated imprisonment or the overcrowded imprisonment, 50,000 are transported to the other country to serve their punishment, and to reduce also the problem of overpopulation or overcrowded. So in 20th century, France continued their practice to penal colonies. So in Devil Island, some of our prisoners will move or they moved to Devil Islands, and Russia also used remote penal colonies in frozen northeast Serbia. So next slide. So the age of modern prison. So in age of modern prison, that what we have now, or that what we have today, started with the several prison reforms in 19th century in England. So during that time, prisoners started receiving more concept of rehabilitation. So there is new laws, or there is new policies inside the imprisonment. So government was introduced around the world, but as what we have today, as the correction has been reformed and the administration also reformed, as what we heard, that our prisons have been overcrowded, a lot of corrupt officials, that's why our correction are slow progress. Even there is improvement in our imprisonment today, but the corruption is also exists, so that our prisoners also suffer. Even there is improvement, and some of that is that cause of death of our inmates. So next slide. So the most famous examples of those two concepts of prison wars that are engulfed the World War are in the beginning of 20th century. Both the formation of the large amount of war prisons composed of con, con, concent, concentration corrupts. And so when the World War and World War II expands, our government formulate over 300 detention cells, which there are lot of prisoners from being detained without judicial process, like political opponents, Jews, or some criminals are many more. So that during World War, the our jurisdiction or the process are not implemented because our government treat their opponents as a criminal. So they put them in a prison without trials. And majority of them was eventually killed on an unprecedented massive scale that is today estimated to be between 11 and 17 million people. So next slide. During the end of 20th century, modern prison system was finalized, and that the kind of prison we have today. But by the year pass, by there is also a lot of changes and correction, and plot causes many inmates suffer. There's a lot of changes that made our prisoners more deadly, and that changes crime eventually change as of today. So 20th century there is so much changes, but that changes can cause suffer to our inmates, like for example, and like for examples, the dirty cells that can cause tuberculosis or many disease that can cause death to our inmates. And the concept so in 2005, over 40 incars over 40 incarceration cells were activated. So some of our prisoners will move that. So in 23 hours long period of cells isolation with occupational command yard time. So educational programs and meals cafeteria as of 2006 is estimated over 9 million people are in prison worldwide. So in United States, leading the rate of incarceration 743 per 100,000 people. So next slide. So prisons have four major purpose. First is to rehabilitate, retribution, incapacitation, deterrence. So retribution means the punishment for crimes against society deriving criminals of their freedom in way of making to pay the debt to society for their crimes. So in retribution means that criminal offender will be punished to the crime they committed against the society or against the community, or should I say that they or should I say they break rules in a certain community. So next is incapacitation. So refers the removal of criminals from society so that they can no longer harm innocent people. So that's that state that criminals will be removed in a certain place so that they can't harm innocent people, so that no one will will be, or should I say, the place are safety, or the purpose of that to secure the people in the community. So next slide. Deterrence. Deterrence means, so deterrence so means the prevention of future crime. So that way our law enforcers give warning to the people in the community. So state for example, like in this community, the robbery is a rampant crime. So our law enforcers give warning. So keep your pocket, or watch pickpocketers. So next is rehabilitation. Rehabilitation means from the word rehabilitate, or to change, the bad behavior of a certain person. That is the first, that is the major purpose of imprisonment. Um, Rehabilitation was to change criminals into a good one. So many include providing educational courses in prison, teaching teaching good values, good moral values. I mean, so job skills, and offering considering with as psychological social workers. So they they the the inmates, or the imprisonment give opportunity to our inmates to have to develop their skills that can be used in a outside the community, that so that they don't do crimes, or they don't do criminal behaviors. Next slide. So the influence of Roman Catholic Church. So when we say Roman Catholic, so that means religion. So religion, should I say, that involves our cultures, our beliefs in that certain thing. So Roman Catholic has big impact to our our personality, because it teach us lessons, moral values that can use our daily lives. So next slide. Okay. Throughout our long history of correction, religions has a big impact to them, because religions provide asylums for the accused criminals. So they provide should I say, safety, or secured. The actual establishment of imprisonment and penitentiary was a religious idea. So their purpose is to change the bad behavior of a person, or the should I say, their purpose is to rehabilitate that person to be a good one, or to be a good person to the community. So that inside the imprisonment, or inside the correction, chaplaincy was built to lead some prisoners that they want to change their beliefs, or their habits, and that way to convert that certain person to be a good one. So next slide. So religions have big impact to our personality. So religions gives value in prison, open about contribution and individual growth. So they focus that inmates do not do do bads or inside the imprisonment to or to they want to change the inmate inside the imprisonment through religion, because religions teach you a good lessons or good or moral values that can that can use or that can affect your personality. So the influence and the practice of religion in the correctional setting is old old as the history of our prison. So initially entry of religion into prison was probably carried out the religion men who themselves were imprisoned. So the purpose also of that is they want the inmates give value or give give value to their religions, and they want to practice a good good can good behavior inside the imprisonment. And the help of Bible to them is the Bible gives lessons that never surrender, and they give lesson like in Jeremiah's or some verses in the New Testament gives gives them gives helps them to be inspired to do good things to others. So next slide. Pause bara. Pause. So imprisonment under the church jurisdiction became substitutes for corporal or capital punishment. So the Rome through the church want to influence offenders in a prison to 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 guide or to be guide to a good shepherd built the famous Michael prison as a house of correction for younger offenders. So in Rome, to they pursue the build of buildings for younger offenders, and to so that place they can be changed offenders into a good one, and having a good works, and especially having a religious education. There's a lot of an influence of this Roman Catholic Church. They want ever prisoners to change or to be enlightened. So the purpose of this is they want they want individuals to change to enlighten them the purpose of their lives, and to give values and give values to the individual or the people surrounds us. So in 1593, the Protestant Amsterdam built a house of correction for women and one for men in 1603. In Rome, what are the sisters and good shepherd? So that is what I explained correctional facilities for women. So and in 1703, Pope Clement the 11th built with the famous Michael prison. So as what I've said na the purpose of them to rehabilitate or to change the individual inside the imprisonment. So next slide. Early settlers in North America brought custom and common laws into the prison to change the administration of correction and its religious influence. So isolating offenders from inside to follow prisoners become accepted in correctional products. So to achieve their goals, that is their purpose. So it was thought that long-term isolation combined with in-depth discussion with with discussion with clergy lead inmate to repent, and thus is there kind of isolating offender for them to be the good, or to enlighten them, for them to change their behavior into a good one. So next slide. Even even during 19th century, when daytime work as initiated by the Auburn system, solidarity confinement at night still the norm of correctional practice. So the purpose, or the political are the purpose of that is the to to rehabilitate, or to change the inmates, or to repaint the inmate to be the good, to be a good, as to be a good one, or to be a better one. Mm, so belief in education as a tool of reducing criminals activity also assisted the growth of religion in the imprisonment. So for them, through that education, or sharing of Bible stories inside the imprisonments, can inmate will reduce the, or will remove, or will change the bad characteristics, or to reduce this. They say that one of the purpose of that is to reduce crime inside the imprisonment. So next slide. So volunteers also have a long history on correction, traced back in the beginning of prison in last 200 years. And one of the most famous advocates for volunteers correction was Maud Bollington Booth, the daughter-in-law of William Booth, who founded the Salvation of Army. So they they build uh they build an institution inside the imprisonment, of the purpose, or the goal is to change every individual inside, to be a good person inside the imprisonment, that can lead to a freedom, or that can lead them to give pardon. So many older correctional institutions are being refurbished or destroyed. So replaced with facilities designed for a better observation and security. So the 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 reform, or they create a new institution, that the purpose is to change every prison, or every individual inside on it. So next slide. So in Duterte's administration, more than 5,000 had been killed on war on drugs in the Philippines. So police operation, which supposedly to involve only to arrest the person, or to rehabilitate individuals of or rehabilitate individuals that are drug addicts. But some of the victims are only the simple citizen in the Philippines, like construction worker, garbage collector, or tricycle driver. Or should I say, the urban poor neighborhoods are affected. And in effect, campaign was been a war on a poor that has attacked global attention for human rights violations. So that is, for me, war on drugs has a big impact of our human rights law, because killing is not a solution, because Plato said that no one had good. Every person had good. So addiction is not enough reason to kill or to kill individuals. So next slide. So during the war on drugs, our Catholic Church in our country against that, because Catholic hierarchy many have resisted the war on drugs in public because government has not been sympathetic in response. So they our government, they don't give chance to the people to change their personal characteristics or their individuals. They don't give chance to them to change to a better one. So next slide. And yet, the response of Catholic leaders to the war on drugs has been fragmented or not completely completed. While certain bishops had rested to campaign, other influential ones to has been remarkable silent. So some of our bishop, their statement is not completed, or they choose to be silent. Moreover, there are press and other religious leaders who actively support the war on drugs premises that is orde, ordained. And next slide. There is, however, a wider and more dynamic backdrop in the Catholic Church attitude towards the drug abuse in the Philippines. So the statement is resistance for one is not recent developed, has taken a different noses over time. So this says that drug abuse in Philippines are rise up then because there are so many individuals being killed in war on drugs. From the 17th or 1917th, the Catholic Bishop Conference of the Philippines, CBCP, has repeatedly tackled the drug use, mentioning the topic of no less than 20 times of devoting two pastoral letters. So the on that day, the bishops or Catholic bishops tackles about the issues about war on drugs. So next slide. So in 1970s, the article traced the trajectory of the Catholic Church, discussed the drug use in the Philippines. So this destruction of the youth, attack on human dignity, social moral decay. So on the war on drugs, many individuals or many lives had been abolished or had been taken. So that is a big impact to our community, to our society, that give threat to the individuals, that simple individuals, or the should I say the poor, the poor institutions. Filipino politicians, including President Duterte, have mobilized the populist troops. So, in this article, the Catholic Church official statement that frames the morality politics through which values of corresponding behavior. So, they value that the aspect or they value the lives of individuals that are affected on the war on drugs.